PNM, with the PNM, my dear friends, there is life. Incidentally, I noticed today on the newspaper, there's a poll. I don't live by polls. But you see, I am prepared to take the good with the bad. In the face of constant adverse comment on a daily basis from all of those opposed to us, a poll emerges which says that the PNM is twice as popular as all of them. But what the poll also says, and I would like to thank the people of Trinidad and Tobago for your support at this point in time. But what the poll also says is this, that there are a lot of people who have left them and who now are in political limbo. So let me take this opportunity here in Point Fortin tonight to say this, that the doors of the PNM are open, my dear friends. That we welcome each and every one of you who shares the objectives and the aims of the People's National Movement. And to put it in slightly different terms, I will say unto all of them, all ye who travel and are heavy laden, come unto the PNM and we will give you political rest. My dear friends, we have now concluded our study of the reform of the local government system. And last week, when we addressed at the College of Center City Mall in Shogunas, we talked about the processes associated with devising a new constitution. We said that there were two things that were important. One was the process by which we arrived at it, which is a process of consultation. And two was the outcome of the consultative process and the outcome of the reform exercise, which means that you must have a constitution that is based on the country's history and the country's culture. We noted last week that the process of widespread consultation has been underway since 2006 to the present time. We noted that at the Prime Minister's office, we set up a round table of academics and politicians to discuss this matter. We noted that a team headed by Professor Hamid Ghani of the Principles of Fairness Committee will very shortly, and of the University of the West Indies Department of Government, will very shortly embark on a series of consultations around the country, 51 in all, visiting every one of the 41 constituencies, giving everybody a chance to speak on this matter. And we noted also, my dear friends, that while that is taking place, the PNM will be embarking on internal consultations on constitution reform. And what the government proposes to do when that is over is to bring out a green paper on constitution reform, which is a statement of government policy, what the PNM government is prepared to suggest to the people of Trinidad and Tobago as an approach, a constitution to which we are likely to lend support. And we will use that as a basis for further consultation. At the end of the day, the whole process will culminate in a Queen's Hall type exercise similar to the one carried out when a constitution was being devised in 1962, our independence constitution, and which has gained international acclaim. We are going to conclude with that. And we are going to arrive at a constitution that was the product of a democratic process of widespread consultation. We will arrive at a constitution that reflects the history and culture of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are going to arrive at a constitution, my dear friends, that has the broad support of the majority, a large section of the people of the population of Trinidad and Tobago. Last week, we also spoke about Montesquieu's doctrine of separation of powers. Remember that? As enunciated by Montesquieu in 1784. And we also discussed the separation of powers as between the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, and what is likely to happen when this concept of the separation of powers is not respected and this is how Montesquieu had put it, remember this, that there would be an end to everything with the same man or the same body, whether of nobles or of the people, to exercise those three powers, that of enacting laws, that of executing the public resolutions, and that of trying the cases of individuals. You can't be executive, legislative, and judiciary at the same time. You can't be police, thief, and magistrate at the same time. Remember that from last week. We also, my dear friends, discussed the independence of the judiciary and the need for an independent judiciary to be able to carry out its job without let or hindrance in one, its decision making, and two, the need to recognize an independent judiciary as an arm of the state equal in stature to the executive, which is the government, and to the legislature, which is the parliament. So it is the government, the parliament, and an independent judiciary, the three arms of the state. We discussed all of that. We also discussed last week that an independent judiciary must be accountable. An independent judiciary must be accountable. And that the discharge of some aspects of judicial administration does not interfere with the independence of the judiciary. All of that we discussed last week. Tonight, my dear friends, there's one more issue like that that I want to draw to your attention. It is a concept called the rule of law. The rule of law. And essentially what it says is this, that no person, no individual, no authority, nobody, no person, no individual, no authority, or no institution is above the law. Everybody, my dear friends, must come under the ambit of the law. In fact, people, individuals, authorities, and institutions derive their authority from the law itself. That is how it has to be. And I wish to remind you that the highest and supreme law of the land is the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. That is the highest law. Tonight, my dear friends, I also want to discuss with you two other concepts. The first is, as enshrined in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, very important. And the second is the preamble to the Constitution. And fundamental rights fall in two categories. One is civil and political rights, which arise by virtue of the fact that you are a human being. You have civil and political rights by virtue of the fact that you are a human being. And social and economic rights, which depend on the capacity of the state to carry them out. Two different types of rights. In fact, under the present Constitution, the Bill of Rights talks about the right of the individual to life, liberty, and security of the person, and employment and enjoyment of property, and the right not to be deprived thereof except by due process of law. The right of the individual to equality before the law and the protection of the law, including due process of law. The right of the individual to respect for his private and family life. The right of the individual to equality of treatment from any public authority in the exercise of its functions. The right of a parent or guardian to provide a school of his own choice for the education of his child or ward. The freedom of conscience and religious belief and observance. Freedom of association and assembly. Freedom of the press. That's just some of them. I enunciate those so that you could understand what is meant by this whole question of civil and political rights. In those that I have outlined, there are two that do not fall under the category of civil and political rights. The first is the enjoyment of property. That, my dear friends, is an economic right. But that right is enshrined in the Bill of Rights because the state is of the view that it has the capacity to guarantee that each and every individual is able to enjoy whatever property he or she owns.